everyone, thanks for being here. I'm here to introduce Ben Clare from PyStar. PyStar is a company that we use as K-INBRE for a lot of our reporting requirements, and I saw Ben do this or a similar presentation on AI at a regional conference, and it was just super insightful and educational and helpful. And I thought it would be great for him to have it share it with all of you. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So without further ado, here is Ben.
So we already have audience interaction. This is great. I may be asking a few things. My name is Ben Clare, pronounced the same way as Claire's name. A little bit of a hint there. And very excited to talk about my passion topic, which is artificial intelligence. I am computer science trained. I am not a biomedical researcher. I'm a computer science guy. I am the CEO of PyStar, so forgive us for all those forms that you may have to fill out to tell K-INBRE your various publications and other research results. But our job as a company is to collect research results, but on the side, I am an early adopter and I am in love with AI tools to the detriment of my day job, but I can't stop playing with things. And that's really going to be the topic of the talk today is I highly suggest not being afraid of AI, except in the sense that you would be afraid of a video game that's kind of draws you in way too much. It definitely can be a distraction, but when used well, it can also be an extremely sharp tool. So I don't know why, after seeing my talk, Claire thought it would be a good idea to invite me. This talk will be more play than talk. So sorry in advance for that. And actually, I'm going to reshare my screen because it's important that I choose the share audio option. Share sound, optimize for video sharing. And I'm going to share yet a third time just to keep confusing us. Four, because I want to make sure I share the correct monitor with the sound option. Screen number 3. Excellent. Here we go for real. And I realize you're looking at a blank screen. That's on purpose. So, just as last time, is everyone able to see the thumbnail of a video here? And actually, I can't see you nod, so someone could say something verbally, Claire.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And let me know if you do not hear the sound because it's rather important. This is an AI video not made by me, but made by someone that I find entertaining. So hopefully everyone can hear the audio sufficiently.
I tried everything for my depression. Nothing worked.
Every day felt heavy. I felt trapped.
Then I tried Puppermin.
Our prescription helps your body secrete a special pheromone that attracts puppies.
I took the pill before bed, and when I woke up, there he was, the love of my life.
The pill does not target depression directly, but we've found that it's really difficult to be depressed when cute dogs show up at your doorstep.
I used to feel so empty, but now I feel joy and mild concern how a pee stain got on the ceiling.
Yeah. So this is a video just made by a group of video creation experts, actually. And they were able to build that in very short order, what would have traditionally taken millions of dollars. And many of you are younger than the last audience I gave this to, so hopefully you've played with some of these tools. But you know, just as we can use AI for silly things like videos, of course, there are some very practical uses as well. This is not one of those. So one of our PyStar employees came from Best Buy, and we think of ourselves as rescuing him from Best Buy. So this is our company logo here. And I asked AI to make a Superman rescuing him from Best Buy. It's a little weird and awkward. But this is the sort of thing that it seems like a waste of time, probably because it is. But if you take the time to interact with AI daily, it's actually taken me a long time to get to where I understand how to prompt AI, whether it's to give me Python code to do something practical at work or something silly like pictures. It really does take time. So one of the thrusts of my talk today is going to be take the time to learn AI. So let's have some boring slides for just a moment. So we're going to talk today about basics of AI used for researchers and hopefully go a little beyond basics. So we're going to talk today about some fun ways to use AI. As a computer programmer, I think that's probably what I could talk about more easily than many other topics. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to use programming. For years, I've actually attended talks with Claire and the K-INBRE group, and I've watched biomedical researchers be forced to become computer programmers. I've actually attended talks at these conferences, and I've been amazed the amount of computer programming required in order to do data science and data analysis. And this is one of the things I'm personally most excited about with the age of AI is it levels the playing field. You don't necessarily have to get someone like me to collaborate on your project when you need to do programming. And I'm going to show you just a little bit of how to do this. But as an example, our company PyStar recently hired my 16-year-old son to be a computer programmer for us. And he's literally never programmed in the language that we use at PyStar. He's been productive within the first month in a way that we've not seen with previous employees. Now, that's probably because he's my son and he's amazing. But beyond that, we've allowed him to leverage AI to learn our programming language is PHP. He's learned it so rapidly. And even with his insane intelligence, I think AI has been key to his rapid start at PyStar. So let's get into it. Most of this talk is actually going to be live sharing as we use various AI tools. I hope they work. We've already seen one instance of computers fighting us, but we'll just see how it goes and we'll do this together. We're going to start with the next tool. For this talk, I thought I would give a practical example. This is a recent tool. It's called Lovable, and it's for my world. It's for making websites and web applications. And I asked it literally 10 minutes ago. I said, would you make me a website showcasing the world's greatest new biomedical researcher? His name is Ben Clare. This is not my picture, sorry. But I just said, put sample data in there. And I want this to be I think the prompt I used was something like, let's have him be a humble, what was it? An up-and-coming medical research student named Ben Clare. Showcase him as a humble but brilliant medical researcher. He was trained at KUMC, so the site should be KU themed. Why we have red here, I don't know. KU themed without infringing their trademarks. Just make up mock data for now to fill in the site. And it said, I'll create a modern professional site. And okay, it's amazing actually, because this is how modern sites look. You'll notice the bands of gray and then white, very common in modern website design. Talks about my educational journey, my research portfolio. And I could actually ask the AI to edit it from here. I could provide real content, like real publications. It would replace the data. The crazy thing about this to me as a programmer, this is not just like a Photoshop mockup. The way this particular tool works is it actually makes a fully interactive website, or it could be a web application. And not only is it fully interactive, it provides full source code to all of this. In fact, with this publish button, I could actually publish this in 2 seconds to a real site and post it on, LinkedIn or wherever I would like in a matter of minutes. And the content here is just play content, but very quickly I could add additional prompts. It would modify these. If I had an actual ORCID ID link that I wanted it to add so that this link worked, right now I see it's linking to 00000. I could simply do that. So I could say, okay, let's go to Ben's ORCID ID. I can't type. We'll just log in. By the way, if you do not have an ORCID, you need one. Absolutely critical for computer people to have any hope of uniquely finding people. And so let's just ask it. 0 free credits remaining today. I may not be able to do this. Yeah, I think it's going to fuss at me, but I could easily just say update the ORCID link to my ORCID and it's probably going to fuss and say you don't have 3 credits. That is one thing I will say. Many of these tools do cost about $20 a month. And a lot of times you can get your institutions to pay for that. A lot of times you can find tools that your institution provides. I will be speaking a little bit later about some University of Kansas Medical Center tools that are actually free and offered by the university and by the medical center. But it's also worth paying for at least one tool like OpenAI ChatGPT or Claude, as I will be talking about later, because some of the paid tools are actually worth the $20 a month that it costs, especially as you get further along in your career. So that was this tool. This tool is called Lovable. It's for making websites. It does provide full source code that actually you can edit by hand or have it continue to edit as we go. The point isn't so much this specific tool. As you're going to see later, no matter what task you're trying to do, there's probably a company out there like Lovable. It could be maybe you're doing some DNA sequencing thing I don't understand. I guarantee there's various tools out there that help with the specific task you do. And I just strongly advise you to take the time to find those. This is another silly example before we get into the meat of the more technical answers. This is a children's drawing I found online. And I said, why don't you create the original photorealistic scene this 5-year-old's drawing was based on? And it's kind of crazy to me. You'll notice we have a dad wearing a orange shirt and purple shorts, a mom in a red dress. We've got a spotted kitty cat. We've got the sun and the clouds. Look at this thing. The actual drawing that it came up with is incredibly close. And imagine this was a medical molecule that you'd hand drawn and you wanted a scientific diagram of it. We can now hand draw something, post it, and in seconds get a realistic, photorealistic rendering of it. So yes, this is a silly example, but there's some extremely practical uses as well. All right, on to programming. No more fun, no fun. So this is a pretty famous code AI tool. It's called Cursor. You also can just generate code right within ChatGPT or Claude. And so first I will show you this one. It's called Cursor. It's for my world again. This is actually PyStar proprietary code. Woo, scary. And this is our help form. So if you want to contact Claire, you'll say, okay, I'm going to fill out this form. Now, if this doesn't look familiar to you, this is called HTML. This is what's behind web pages. Most of you probably had a computer course in high school or something. And let's say it had been years and years and years since I had touched HTML. I have no idea what this magical syntax is in here. Oh my goodness, I don't know. But my boss said, I need to add an address field to this form. Because right now this form asks for your name, which is here. Here's your name. I'm sorry, here. Here's your email address and here's your phone number. And so let's say my boss says, after the email address and phone number, you need to add some of this gobbledygook code and you need to request their address. So I can literally just say to the AI, add form fields. You're going to watch me type for a street address, street, city, state, zip, after the project questions, email, and phone fields. And instead of actually having to understand HTML, I can literally just, of course, have the AI do it. And unlike something like ChatGPT, where it's going to answer in some chat that I then have to copy paste back into the code, this will actually edit the file right in line. And so you actually see it understood all this gobbledygook code. It actually put it exactly where I asked it to, and it has a street address, and I can just tell you this is the correct way to do it in this exact code base. And so if you were doing a biomedical thing and you had an existing file, and maybe you just needed to add a couple of features to it, you don't actually have to understand the file anymore. You provide the example to the AI, you use human language to describe what you want. And it doesn't matter if this is Python, some random biomedical specific language, and the AI is able to make those edits for you right in line. This particular tool, if you're doing computer programming, is cheap and is kind of one of the front runners for having a code editor that edits things yourself. So it's called Cursor, if you want to write that down. Moving on to something more familiar. This is our friend ChatGPT that hopefully you've played with. If not, it's well worth your time. I want to take a minute to talk about things that some people don't know. If you pay for ChatGPT, you actually get access to a much stronger model called the thinking model and the pro model. And it is well worth the $20 a month. You will find that the sort of answers you get from the higher end models are exponentially better than the answers you get from the free ones. So I'm going to provide an example here of programming. So I just told the ChatGPT I have a comma separated value file of patient biomarker levels and clinical outcomes. I actually don't know what that means. It says here are some sample rows, and I gave it some patient IDs and some CRP, IL-6, and TNF alpha. I hope those are real words. And I said, can you write an R script that loads the data from this file, creates box plots comparing each biomarker, performs t-tests for each biomarker, and outputs a summary table of means and p-values and saves the plots as pictures. And I said, by the way, I don't really know R, but make sure you comment the code really well so that I can understand it. And it actually just took seconds. And it said, here's a well-commented R script that does what you requested, loads the data. And so it provided the code. And I can obviously paste this into R and take it from there. If you've never done this, one thing that will happen from time to time is you will paste in its code into whatever editor you're using, and there will be an error. All you have to do is paste that error message back in, and it will repair the code as you go. And the cool thing is, of course, this is a continual chat, so I can say, give me the patient data as a downloadable Excel file. And in seconds, I'm going to have a downloadable Excel file. So things that would have taken traditionally some time, if I had to copy paste this, and maybe I'd have to paste each individual number into Excel, shoot me now. Just, we don't have to do that sort of thing anymore. We can just ask AI to do it for us. I'm hoping you're already doing those sort of things. Notice it's writing Python code to do this. So again, maybe you don't know Python. One thing it's able to do is not only write the code, but it's actually going to execute the code internally within the AI. So it output this table. I can actually see it right here in line in the chat. I can also simply click download, and it's going to download that Excel file for me. And in seconds, I just have the file right here in Excel. And this brings me to my next example. I consider myself an Excel formula expert. I'm very good at, I can cross-reference multiple sheets. I can do all kinds of magic in Excel. However, I've almost stopped writing Excel formulas because the AIs are so much better at writing Excel formulas than I am. So let's say I wanted to do something simple, but maybe I've never used an Excel formula. These days, if I wanted to maybe sum and average and mean these values, I could, and I don't know the formulas, I can ask for provide Excel formulas, calculate common statistics for these values. It's going to think for a minute. Notice I didn't even say which statistics I want because, again, I actually don't know what would be useful, not being a biomedical researcher. It's thinking. If you click on that, you can actually see its thoughts, which is kind of cool. So it's actually like, okay, this crazy user doesn't even seem to know what they want. Maybe I should provide mean, median, standard deviation, min, max, etc. Okay, I'm going to provide simple formulas. It's assuming what my data set looks like. If you get tired of waiting, you can click the word skip, and it will skip the thinking and just give you an immediate answer. And so it says, okay, here's some formulas. You can get your average, get your median, get your standard deviation, etc. But you'll notice these formulas are actually not quite, it's saying it wants to average B2 through B1000. But if I look at my cell, that's just going to average this column. Maybe that's what I want. But I really think I want my total row here. Or maybe I'll call this mean, average, sum. Mean the same median. So now it's like, well, how do I tell it what I want? I really want the formula in this cell. I don't want to sum up B2 through 1000. That's not what I want. Here's one of my favorite tricks ever for working with LLMs. Take a screenshot and give it the context that it needs. Actually, I want the formulas in the totals or in column A, like in this screenshot. And the crazy thing is it can literally read that screenshot, understand what I mean, and provide me formulas that actually work in those exact cells. So it's saying in B7, I should put in this formula. There we go. C7, I should put in this formula. Of course, I'm smarter than it. We'll just include that. And it's telling me the exact formulas to put in. Now, in this example, obviously, these are trivial formulas, but imagine these were multi-part formulas that were extremely complex, which I often need to do. Maybe it wants to look up values from one sheet from another. And trivially, I can get the exact formulas that I need. Here's another example where I actually have someone at PyStar who is keeping track of which grants have been awarded. We call it our NOAA tracker, and it actually tells programs like K-INBRE, hey, you actually just received a renewal notice from NIH. And one of the ways that the person at PyStar is doing this is they are actually using the PubMed API to crawl that information, or not PubMed, and in his case, it's NIH Reporter API. But maybe you don't know how to use Python to query PubMed. And so this is another great example. I'm using a tool called Claude, which is just like ChatGPT. It has some advantages when it comes to coding, but it doesn't matter really which one you use. We're going to talk about AI ethics here in a bit. It does matter very much if you put confidential KUMC data in here. Don't do that. I will actually provide some tools that you are able to do private, confidential, even HIPAA covered data. But I'll be showing you the KUMC guidance for that. But in this case, I basically just said, okay, please create Python to actually query PubMed, which is kind of crazy. Traditionally, this would take a long time for someone like me to code. You have to go research the exact PubMed API syntax. And yet, these AI tools just already know how to do these things, or if they don't know, they can literally look it up. And so you'll notice that it's going to actually tell me exactly which libraries I need to install. If you've never used Python, this is going to be, again, more gobbledygook. Again, though, the crazy thing about AI, and one of the things that I use it for every day, is if you don't understand what this means, you ask AI. So it becomes this kind of process where you're learning to learn as you go. If you don't know how to do this, great. If you do, then it tells you everything you need. If you don't, you literally just ask AI. I don't know how to do this. And maybe you don't even know where to start. You can literally provide a screenshot of your whole screen and say, I'm trying to do this. I don't understand what you mean pip install. This is what my screen looks like. And it will say, well, you actually need to open up a terminal window. Oh, what's a terminal window? Well, you need to install a program called Putty or whatever. And okay, well, where do I type this? You type it here. Well, I typed it and it gave me some error message. Well, this is how you get through your error message. And you can really use it interactively to get through these processes that you need to get through. In this case, it actually is just telling us exactly how to do this particular task. I'm not going to get into the details because the point isn't this exact example. The point is when you have a problem, turn to AI, and unless you practice regularly, you're not going to be able to do this. So one of the things I push on is try to find a use for AI every day, and over time you'll be able to do the things you need to do. I've struggled with whether to show this one. This is actually a tool that I absolutely love. It's called Google AI Studio. And its unique superpower is that you can actually talk to the AI interactively while sharing your screen. I don't know whether a real-time demo on a Zoom call is a great idea or a terrible idea. The way that I use this is you go to this website, aistudio.google.com, and you click this link called Stream. And you can either choose to interact with this AI verbally, where you actually speak to it and it verbally speaks back to you, or my personal favorite is to interact where I speak to it, but it interacts back to me with just text. because it speaks really slow and sometimes it says a lot. And it's like, I don't want to listen all day to you. And this is another great example for Excel where I can literally share my screen. And I don't think I'm going to do that because my computer crashed last time I tried to full screen a PowerPoint on this talk. But I can share my screen and then I can actually interactively talk to the AI. So I can say, hey, do you see this Excel file that I have open? And it'll literally speak back to me. Yes, I see your Excel file. I see that you have a patient ID and a CRP. I'm like, yes, I do. Please be quiet. I'm trying to ask you a question. And you can just interactively say, do you see that in column B7, I have this median? What is the appropriate formula? And it will literally just interactively speak with you, which is kind of crazy. I've used this for tools like Cursor. If you're not familiar with how to use a new tool, maybe it's something with MATLAB or R or anything that you're trying to do. It's amazing. These AIs, they have a lot of context, and it almost doesn't matter which tool you're trying to use. They probably can help you. And so the reason I mentioned AI Studio is because if it's laborious to take screenshots back and forth and paste them into your conversation, tools like AI Studio that actually can watch you use your computer and interactively tell you what's going on are really helpful, and they are out there. The next tool we're going to talk about is actually called S-Site, and perhaps some of you have heard of this. The superpower of this specific tool, it's at ssite.ai, is it actually is able to search through the full text of an insane number of research publications. And so if you have a specific research question, like for me, if you wanted to know the research about artificial intelligence in research, because I was giving a talk on AI, I wanted to search for papers about artificial intelligence in research. It very quickly will actually search the full text of an incredible number of publications. It will link you to the exact publication so you can research it yourself, and it will actually do various analysis within those publications. My free trial has ended of this tool. This may be one that would be worth the university getting a license for if it's useful. But I point this one out because it's more in your world and it has very specific tools. Michael, I see your hand raised there. Did you want to say something?
Yes, and I apologize that I just jump in like this, but the site is just or site underscore is just blowing my mind. Can I ask you, is the background, is the database that it's mining, is that PubMed? Or where are the papers from? I'm just curious. They must be open, they must be open access papers. And as far as I know, only PubMed has or Archive, I see that has a sufficiently accessible number of open access papers.
Yeah, you're into my passion project myself as well. I find the same thing. There's sites like OpenAlex that try to have the list of absolutely every open access publication out there. I'm not sure. I think Site has agreements with some of the more closed providers, but I'm not sure. I would actually have to check their documentation on their site. But I believe it's more than just the open access stuff. But
okay.
It may just be I thought it was full text. It may be that they're mostly processing the bibliometric and the abstracts. But I don't think, no, it's full text. I don't know. That's a great question. I'm not sure the answer to that. So.
Okay, thank you though.
Yeah. Don't know that this one again is $20 a month. It's crazy how many of these tools are $20 a month. Yeah, I don't think I have it. So when I did the talk last time, I had my 7-day free trial. I can't show you some of the more advanced features, but this will do things like keyword analysis. It has a lot of specialized tools that actually has this thing called Smart Site, where you can kind of bounce from one publication to another. So it will basically let you dig through and find related publications. So this is probably one where I'm not deep enough in the research world to take advantage of it, but this is one maybe you should take the free for trial on. I was really impressed with it when I did my earlier talk. So back into my world, The next tool I want to talk about is one you've probably heard of, actually. Well, I don't know if you've heard of it. If you've played with AI tools, it's pretty famous because if you've ever heard an AI podcast, it was probably generated by this tool. This tool is called Notebook LLM. It's by Google. And the amazing thing about Notebook LLM that's different than ChatGPT, it's different than many of your other AI providers, is it has basically an unlimited, what we call a context window. So most AI tools are limited to something like 100,000 bytes of data. And beyond that, they start to lose context. They start to not really be able to understand all of the data that they're being requested to process. The superpower of Notebook LLM is that it allows you to upload and to provide sources of pretty much any length you want. You know, you could put 100 PDFs in here. You could put hours long YouTube videos in here, and it will kind of intelligently search through any amount of source materials you have. So the specific example I have pulled up here is I have two of the most dry, boring, hour-long videos I think I've ever seen. These are NIH grant policy updates. And some people like Claire have to, understand some of this madness, but it's horrible. And even on topics I personally care about, like IT passion projects. Actually, there was a conference today for the specific programming platform we use called Laravel, and it was a 2.5 hour talk by the founder. And I'm like, I want to know what he said, but I do not have 2.5 hours. And so what you do with this particular platform is you take the URL of the video, and because it's by Google, it can access any YouTube video. So there are some restrictions that other companies have pulling down YouTube content, but because Google also owns YouTube, this tool is easily able to import any YouTube source. So you click add, you say, I want to include a YouTube link. I paste in the URL of the video I'm interested in. And literally you're talking 10 seconds, it provides that as one of your sources. Once it provides the source, you can then ask questions of that source. You can say, summarize 2025 policy changes. You can ask any question you want. I've had it pull out tabular data. One time I uploaded a various INBRE reports from various years, and I said, would you give me a chart of number of students that have participated in this INBRE over the last 5 years? And it gave me a nice table. In 2024, we had this many male students, this many female students. In 2025, we had this many. And so it can actually, process PDFs, YouTube videos, etc., very quickly. And one thing I like about this specific tool is it always cites its source. And so if it claims something, you're like, okay, is this real? Is it just hallucinating? You can actually click on these citation links and actually see where in the transcript of that video this particular claim was made. So it says effective on this date, the review criteria will be updated. I can click on that text and I can actually see right in the transcript where that change was. And so this tool is great if you want to process a large amount of information quickly. They do have a podcast generation tool, which I've actually uploaded even like personal journal entries and had it create a podcast talking about my own thoughts, and it's kind of wild. Recently, they introduced this video update tool that allows you to create a kind of animation style presentation about the particular source. So here it's giving a video view of these various updates. I've not actually watched this yet. And so it's going to give like a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, here's some key things that have changed. Your ORCID ID must be linked in your ERA Commons profile. Did you know that? I didn't. And it's actually giving like a PowerPoint presentation about these YouTube videos. So this is a tool that I recommend for anyone who's having to consume just way too much content and you'd like to be able to quickly get to the source. I will caution you, like all AI tools, you shouldn't perfectly trust everything it says. I highly recommend clicking on the source links that it provides and going to the actual root of the source. But you may find something's like, oh my goodness, is that real? Maybe some piece of the content was really important to you. This will quickly pull out the most important pieces and allow you to find it and then jump into the source material and see it. So highly recommend Notebook LLM. This one is free. So of all the tools, it's one that is well worth your time, if, specifically for video content. That's most of the tools. I know that was a lot to throw at you at once. I'd like to stop with the madness of the tools for now and talk just a little bit about practical use of AI within KUMC. I will see if anyone else maybe has a question. I don't know if we can open it up for questions very easily in this audience. You can type your questions to Claire in the chat. Anyone has anything?
Anyone's welcome to come off mute if they want to do that, or yeah, type it in the chat, or no rush. If any students, I know you kind of have to tell your campus coordinator first, and then maybe have them type it in the chat. But if anyone has anything, don't hesitate to ask.
And while you're thinking of questions, I'm going to start talking just a little bit about ethics, which is not, this is what I didn't want to talk about. Every time I give an AI talk, it's really necessary to talk about ethics. It's really necessary to talk about data sensitivity, privacy issues, especially in the medical space. I don't like to talk about this topic, mostly because I feel like it holds people back from using the tools, as it should. You should not use any of these tools inappropriately, and you should not expose KUMC data. This is a very important topic, but I also think it's worth digging through the ethics and understanding them enough to get started. So by talking about this, I hope it doesn't make you not do the work to figure out how to use AI appropriately. And please remember, there's a lot of public data that you can use AI with that is not covered by, it's not KUMC specific data, it's not K-INBRE data. And so there's a lot of ways to use AI that do not run into these ethical roadblocks. But I was really excited in preparing for this talk to find this webpage. There is actually a KU and KUMC AI task force that I've actually been recommending for a while now, that universities need to form a task force. They need to be providing guidance for how to appropriately use AI in their environments. And I was absolutely thrilled to find that KU has done this, and that there is a website for the task force that provides details about AI use within both KU as well as KUMC. The page is ai.ku.edu. So very simple URL to remember, ai.ku.edu/AI task force AI recommended AI guidelines. And this is actually pretty good. Before I get to the expectations and guidance, I wanted to talk about the part that I find most exciting. There's a section in here for KUMC specifically. And ends up, there's actually, there are several tools that are provided, and Claire, stop me if any of this is like outdated or inaccurate. I just found this online, but this is guidance from the actual official task force about tools for KU Medical Center. And so there are some tools referenced here, like Microsoft Copilot, that can be used for non-public data if you use them correctly. So if you sign in with the KUMC.edu account, and you are on a KU Med Center or UKHS computer, and you are using Microsoft Copilot. And so you're basically using the official university environment, or the official medical center environment, I'm sorry. You are actually able to use this for public, sensitive, confidential, restricted data. Now that said, I would speak to your data science core, to Claire, and confirm that you're using the right tools. You don't want to get this wrong. There's also a Databricks instance, which is a data analysis platform that's very famous, that they have that actually can provide HIPAA compliant tools. This is one I would not suggest you just run off on your own and do it. But if you are doing medical research and you're like, man, if I could just use AI on this actual patient data or on this actual KUMC data, and you've just given up on it, you feel like, oh, it's just impossible, there's no way that would be compliant. I was very encouraged to see that there are actual sources available to do that. You would want to, of course, speak to the experts before doing so and make sure you're using the right tools in the right way. But I'm just thrilled that these environments are even available. And then I will give you the specific guidance that actually I'll just do it from this. Yeah, I have a summary of it. So I summarized the guidance because there's a lot of words there. This is the URL where you can find the more detailed guidance. This is Ben Clare's version of it. You are responsible for generated content. I have a Tesla and it has self-driving. Judge me, that's fine, but I love it. And I'm responsible, even though the car is driving, to make sure it doesn't crash. And that's true with AI. You may have heard on the news that lawyers have submitted briefings to judges that have hallucinated case law in them. And they've just gotten really lambasted, appropriately so, by the judge and by media for turning in hallucinated wrong content. And that's their fault. If you use AI to generate something, you are responsible for what you generate. If you submit something in research or for anything, you're the one who's responsible. AI can be a fantastic tool, but it's at the end of the day, you're the one submitting it, not the AI, to whoever you give it to. And so the guidance on that site is that users should clearly disclose when research content, meaning analysis, figures, and proofs, were generated using generative AI tools, which is absolutely great. And then this is the other key. We just spoke about that a little bit. Do not enter non-public data into unapproved AI tools. This one's probably the biggest. This would be a really big faux pas, if you enter patient data or even just anything that's considered non-public. There are data classification guidelines within the university IT policies. And if it's not public, then it is restricted. Basically, it is controlled, I should say. It may not be what we call restricted, but it's at least controlled. And so unless it's public, you need to be using an approved AI tool, such as those I referenced on the previous slide. Another key that I found prepping for my previous talk is that NIH themselves have guidance about how AI can and cannot be used in official NIH processes. And so if you are doing any sort of peer review process with NIH, which I don't think this audience is doing yet, but I may have some of them on the call, you are not allowed to use it whatsoever in any way. Like, you can't paste in stuff. You just absolutely cannot use it whatsoever for NIH peer review. However, if you ever find yourself writing a proposal, it actually is allowed to be used if disclosed. Not that you can have it write entire sections and pass it off on your own or anything like that, but you absolutely can use AI in approved ways when writing NIH proposals. And I think that's going to be important in order to be competitive, is taking advantage of the ability for these AIs to help us get the proposals that are high quality out the door in a reasonable time frame.
I'll just hop in with one thing then here too, Ben. For anyone that's joining from a different university, if you have any questions about your university policies on use of AI, I'd be happy to help you figure that out. It's probably public, just like the KU one is, but if you don't know, I can definitely help you find the right resources to maybe just kind of placate any concerns that you have about utilizing it.
Thank you, Claire. And I was going to mention, thank you for that specifically, because there is a data science core at K-INBRE, and I was actually watching the talk that was part of the seminar a year ago, and the head of the core, Brad Olson, was giving the talk, and part of his talk was on how useful ChatGPT and AI can be in biomedical research. So you have experts right there at K-INBRE who can help you with things, regardless of what campus you're at. And if you're at K-State, say hi to me. I'm also in Manhattan, Kansas. And that's really the end of what I wanted to talk to you about today, but this is not the end of the learning journey. I actually created a query. Imagine that I used AI, and I basically said, what are the key tools? If I were actually a biomedical researcher, because I am not, I said, what are the key front-running tools that a biomedical researcher should be aware of today? So if you want to write this down, tinyurl.com/KUMC ideas. I probably should have called it K-INBRE ideas. And this is literally just a thread. Now, you should pretty much never paste anyone else your ChatGPT thread, because no one cares about your ChatGPT thread like the person who did it. So I shouldn't even share this with you. So I'll share this mostly for the point that I tried to make earlier in the talk, that you should be asking AI to help you brainstorm. You should be asking AI to help you research and learn things that you don't know. And so this did talk about the basics that I shared today, how to code with Python using ChatGPT, how to summarize long documents with Notebook LLM, but it got far beyond what I understand. It started talking about imaging and digital pathology. It started talking about specialized tools for genomics and multiomics variant calling. It started talking about AI tool chains for single cell mapping and things I don't understand. And so there's a lot of tools out there, and that can be overwhelming, but it also is an opportunity for us to do cutting edge research with the latest tools. Michael, I will provide that link in chat. Thank you. All right. And that is my talk for today. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about one of my favorite things, AI, and I hope it's as useful to you as it is to me. Thank you.
Yay! Excellent job, Ben. Just as good as the last one. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or like anything concerns about using AI? Anything that you want to ask?
Hey, it's Bridget.
Hey, Bridget.
Hi. There's many questions. However, one of the things that pops into my head up front is just thinking about when I was doing my dissertation work and I queried a database and I created a humongous merged database from many other databases, right? So I did all that, and it was, hundreds and hundreds of cells of data. And then I had kind of a rule I went through that I documented in my methodology of basically QA QC. How many cells am I going to go back to the raw data, their original source, and check, right? How many cells in my queried data or my now merged data that I've produced am I going to go back and check? Am I going to check every 10th cell of data? Am I going to check 1% of the whole data? What's your rule?
So that's a great question, because data quality when having AI help you is very dangerous, actually. Honestly, my rule is actually closer to 100%, but not maybe in the way you're thinking. I actually don't use AI to generate large sets of data, or even to I'd be nervous to use it even to format or edit large sets of data. I often use AI to provide me a tool to generate data, or to, say I need to massage thousands of rows of data. I would actually use AI to give me a Python script to make those changes. So I don't recommend using AI to generate content that's so big that you can't manually check it. Find another way to generate that data that's actually trustworthy, because AI, especially as that content, it's not just the input context link that's limited to 100,000 bytes, it's even its output. The more characters the AI outputs, the greater the chance of error, the greater the chance of it cutting off. So I hope that answers your question. I try not to generate large amounts of data that I then have to double check. And if I do, it kind of has to be double checked, unless you've used that tool enough that you really, you just have enough experience, it's going to be correct.
Yeah, I guess I would think that you would have to go, like you were saying, you have your Excel sheet, or, you'd have like data from a document, right? An analysis from a document or something like that. Wouldn't you think, I don't know, even if you just had 10 cells of data that came from some source, wouldn't you have to go to the raw source and check that? I mean, rather than just trust that your program did everything perfectly?
Sure. Yeah, and that's where, if I had a Python program generate it, sure, I agree with you. Check 10%, check a sample rate, right? Then you're not working with AI generated data, so you're really just checking if the script worked correctly. You're not checking if data was hallucinated. So,
yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, thanks.
Great question.
One thing that I just kind of want to highlight from your last talk was basically just, a good thing to go by, y'all, if you're concerned about, when to use AI or when to not. Ben said in his last talk, trust but verify, which I just think is like a great phrase to remember, because it's just, trust it, and you want to make sure that you're utilizing it because it is a great resource, but also verify, do that double check. It's like driving the Tesla, you're responsible if it gets in a crash, you're responsible if you, get accused of plagiarizing or whatever it may be. So trust but verify is a good thing that I keep in my mind when I'm using AI.
Thanks, Claire.
I know we're coming up on 6 o'clock, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. And I'm sure the kiddos are itching to get out. Any other questions or comments? All right, awesome. Well, another round of applause for Ben. Virtual round of applause.
Hello. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. What's up?
Hi. My name is Stephen, and I'm
not Stephen Fields.
And I have the question so I understand we need to disclose when we're using AI, but if I use AI to generate an article and I turn it as some sort of assignments, and one of the faculty thought the article was generated by AI, and so the faculty just copied the article and paste the article in the searching bar for some sort of AI and ask AI if this article is generated by AI. Is the AI can say yes?
Yeah, you've hit a hot button topic. So this is a great question. It's a general research topic, actually, of whether AI can successfully detect AI use, and it's an arms race. I actually think it's a very frustrating topic because most of what people worry about with AI is plagiarism. Just don't plagiarize. Don't generate assignments that you should have written yourself. Just let's avoid that whole topic. And the whole topic of professors claiming that something you wrote was AI generated. It's tough because a lot of students, from what I hear from professors, are generating stuff. So if you are the innocent one, they throw it through those tools. Those tools are just guessing, like AI does. It just generates answers probabilistically. And so it's just a guess. And so there's no deterministic way to prove whether something was or wasn't written by AI. It's just a statistical guess. So it's a problem. And we don't have a great answer. That's an ongoing topic of research is how to deal with that. It's a great question.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. Anything else from anyone? I'll wait a little bit longer just in case there's another last minute catch here. Okay. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here. And I thought that was, like I said, just really insightful and helpful. Thank you, Ben. And looking forward to the next one. So have a great evening and talk to you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Claire, thanks, Ben. Thank you.
See y'all.